Finally, we have some baseball news to talk about. We have to talk about a few shortstops today. Carlos Correa, he is opting out of the World Baseball Classic, which, as a baseball fan, that's devastating. Carlos Correa, I mean, he's part of that Puerto Rico team from a few years ago. He was so fun to watch. He is backing out. We'll talk about that. Another shortstop, the Blue Jays and Bichette have agreed on a 3-year contract, but we kind of have to talk about it because it's not a full-blown, he's extended it for 3 more years. We'll talk about it. Steve Cohen responded to all of the haters, and then also Fernando Tatis, he's back in the limelight, so we'll break down what he said about redeeming himself. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about Jasson Dominguez. They called him the Martian. He turned 20 a few days ago. He has been invited to the Yankees spring training camp for the first time ever. Last year, as a 19-year-old, he had 16 home runs and 37 stolen bases while only getting caught 7 times in 120 games, and he actually got better when he got called up to high A. He wasn't as good in 5 AA games, but still, he got called up at 19 years old to AA. I feel like Anthony Volpe, Oswald Peraza, and Jasson Dominguez are going to be pretty special for the Yankees, and hopefully they're all on the roster within the next 2 years. Like I mentioned in the intro, Carlos Correa is backing out of the World Baseball Classic, and if you're a Twins fan, it's not because he's injured or anything is happening health-wise. Well, actually, it is health-wise, but in regards to his wife, during the Baseball Classic, his wife is scheduled to go into labor, so he wants to be there for his wife, and I totally respect that, although I am going to miss seeing this. It's so much fun to watch. I'm going to miss it. All right, let's go ahead and break down Bichette agreeing on a 3-year contract with the Blue Jays. Now, a lot of Jays fans were celebrating, but the thing about this contract, if we take a look, he's not a free agent until 2026, so that's 3 years from now. What the Blue Jays did is they did not give him a contract extension. Essentially, they just bought out his arbitration year, so he is still a free agent after 2026. But I will say, this is still fantastic news because it means that the Blue Jays and Bichette, they're on good speaking terms. They're not afraid to sit down at a table, have some difficult conversations about money, because we all know money can be the root of all evils. We've seen Chris Bryant get screwed in arbitration. We've seen some other players like Max Fried not get paid what he's worth because of arbitration. So the fact that the Jays and Bichette said, hey, we want to focus on winning over the next 3 years, not your arbitration cases. Let's just buy out your arbitration, and then in 2026, we'll reconvene, or maybe in the next few years, maybe 2025, they can talk about an extension. So yes, they agreed on a new contract, but you have to keep in mind, it's just for the next 3 years. They bought out his arbitration. Remember, we are going to talk about Fernando Tatis and Steve Cohen in just a second, but I do want to show you guys the 2023 depth chart for the Blue Jays. Now that Bichette, his arbitration case has been settled, you have Springer, Bo, Vladdy, Alejandro Kirk, Dalton Varsho, Chapman, Whit Merrifield was better. You have Kevin Kiermaier in center field along with Brandon Belt as a newcomer. He's going to be a DH. I just think that you have Dalton Varsho, who is one of the best hitters in baseball against fastballs above 95 plus. Brandon Belt absolutely destroys breaking pitches, so this is a pretty deep lineup. We haven't even talked about Danny Jansen. We haven't talked about Kevin Biggio. Is he going to have a lot of playing time? I think so. Their starting rotation is ridiculous with Manoah, Gausman, Barrios, Bassett. I don't think that we have to talk about Yusei. They picked up Eric Swanson in that Teoscar Hernandez trade. Hungjin Ryu, I don't know if he's going to be healthy going into the second half of 2023, but I really like the chances of the Blue Jays being a playoff team and a deep playoff team in 2023. So do you see how the Mets are #1 in payroll? Well, apparently a lot of owners across the game of baseball have a problem with the Mets almost having $100+ million more than the second place team if we're talking about projected payroll. Right now, the Mets are sitting at about $355 million. It can actually balloon up to $400+ if all of the incentives happen. The Yankees are in second with $272 million, and then you can see the rest of it right there. And again, a lot of owners and kind of baseball fans across the community are saying, is this fair? And then Steve Cohen, he actually responded. He came out and said, I've heard what everyone else has heard, that they're not happy with me, talking about the other owners. I hear things from people who are maybe more neutral, that they're taking a lot of heat from their fans. I kind of look at it like, you're looking at the wrong person. They're putting it on me. Maybe they need to look at themselves. He just called all the other owners poor. Okay, not really, I'm being dramatic, but he's essentially saying, I'm operating under the same rules as everyone else. And then the second quote, I'm not responsible responsible for how other teams run their clubs. I'm really not. That's not my job. And there are disparities in baseball. We know that to be true. So basically, he's acknowledging that small market teams are not going to have the advantage of spending a lot of money. But again, I'm following the rules. They set the rules down. I'm following them. I feel like Steve Cohen is doing the game of baseball a great service. He's spending money. He's using his billion-dollar portfolio to make a stacked Mets roster. I mean, honestly, right now, if you said that it was going to be Mets versus the Phillies or the Phillies versus the Padres in the NLCS, there are so many stacked rosters going into 2023. And it's in large part because Steve Cohen he broke the mold. He is doing things that owners really haven't done in the history of baseball, aside from George Steinbrenner, rest in peace. That guy was so cool. I don't think that Steve Cohen is George because I feel like Steve is a much nicer guy. And don't get me wrong, George, he had his moments, but I feel like he was so cutthroat. Steve, he just wants to win, and he kind of sits back in Hawaii and says, yeah, you can open my pocketbook, whatever you need. We're gonna come out with a video grading all of the teams and their off seasons, but I do want to show you guys what the Mets did. They got Brandon Nimmo back. They were able to give Jeff McNeil an extension. They brought in Tommy Pham as a decent bench bat. They got Justin Verlander. They brought in Kodai Senga. They signed Jose Quintana, and then the bullpen is looking pretty good. They gave David Robertson a ton of money. Even though they lost Jacob deGrom, in my opinion, still had an A-grade offseason. So I know I'm kind of spoiling the Mets for that future video talking about all of the grades, but for me, I wanted to give Steve Cohen some credit. You can lose Jacob deGrom, and then because you have access to a plethora of disposable incomes and monies, you can go ahead and still have a great offseason. So I tip my cap. Steve Cohen, he's cool. I like what he's doing. And then finally, Fernando Tatis Jr. is back. He is trying to redeem himself, and that's just not me saying it. Fernando Tatis actually responded. He wants to make a comeback and, yeah, as he said, redeem himself.
I've learned a lot. I feel like everything that has happened to me is bringing its purpose to us aiming for the future for me, and just looking forward. I'm ready to learn from what happened to me the last years, and I'm really looking forward to redeem myself. And everything that we have been doing, it feels back to normal. It feels like I'm close to my 100% that I've been in the last 2 years with my shoulder problem, and it feels great. I feel like it was the perfect time to do it, and I'm really glad that we decided to get it out of the way.
So let me know your thoughts on Tatis in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for today's recap. Remember, we do this almost every single day, so make sure you guys subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day.